Hi, my name is Axel Wieder. I'm director of Bergen Kunsthal, and I'm glad to show you a few glimpses here of the show by Jef Geys, which we opened just a few days ago. We were able to open with a bit of delay because of the Corona crisis. We had 2 weeks additional for install, which was more time than we expected, but the situation was more complicated, so it actually felt more work, which is strange, but one of the kind of symptoms of these times. So we have been working on the exhibition for quite a while. We are very happy to have worked with very nice people. Inge Godelaine, who helped with the install, with Jef Geys' family, Nina Geys and Kai O'Hara, with museums who helped us borrowing some of the works, and with private collections and the galleries. So it really feels like a very substantial, obviously not an overview, but a substantial exhibition with many works that we were able to put here together. So there's a kind of one conceptual part that we worked with in arranging the works. We were kind of fascinated and very interested in the way that Jef Geys used different social systems or areas of society, production circuits in his work. The school where he taught for more than 30 years as one of the very important spaces, and production sites, working with young people, but then also industrial workshops, the rural space, architecture, you could say, urbanism. So we try to arrange the spaces in a way that they don't become thematic, but clusters of different works that relate to these production circuits and the way that they create meaning and influence the work. And so now maybe I turn my camera to show you more of the spaces. Here we are in the entrance space, as I mentioned, and we have this very beautiful group of puppets from the late 1960s. 5 puppets here. They're all from the old original series, and different collections nowadays, so we were very happy that we actually were able to bring them together. And these human figures that in a way greet the visitor when coming in. And we're showing them together with some of the fruit reliefs, a plum, some grapes, here a banana in very bright yellow. This is the Mercedes leaf in a color that, funnily for me, is very familiar. It's from the car manufacturing company Mercedes, a color they used a lot, and it's really a color that reminds me of being a young person and like a kid, and seeing these cars driving around, Mercedes 200Ds in this kind of very specific color. There was also a kind of matte yellow and this kind of glossy metallic green. So for me, that is really connects to this aesthetic that comes from car manufacturing, and we hung this kind of portrait with a heart and the personal number of Jef Geys here, half face from a passport photo. And then the second space with another puppet, Ferdinand, or the army puppet, which has here some nice space. You might know the work with and the transformation that it has undergone. Now it has these pencil marks, demokratisch, Solipsisme, reaktionär, Parodie. And the space has, in addition, a series of seat back paintings. And together with the cow portraits. Here we see Theodora, Lola, Clara, Hortense, Amélie, Fabiola, and one of the larger cows. It's funny how the views work. In the first space, the puppets that have no concrete faces or eyes, and then here the cow directly stares at the visitor coming in. Ui. And then another space, now the doors open, because we're still not open yet. But this is the space that we focus on architecture. Here we have one of the mid-size structures, enlarging a model from a building in Uruguay by an unknown architect, and a couple of other smaller structures. Luis Barragan from Mexico, Mies van der Rohe, Haus Lemke in Berlin, Weißensee, building in Czechoslovakia, Villa Wintermans in Belgium, Lubetkin in England, building from Moscow. It's an interesting selection of modernist structures, abstracted in this kind of model way. What's interesting is that they have such different histories and they have different status, maybe also in history. Some are very famous, like the Mies van der Rohe building. Others are much less famous, and they underline the importance of modernist architecture in this as a kind of globalized, or at least very international architectural language happening in many different parts of the world. It's nice that we actually have the structure from Uruguay, because it's about a different sub-history of modernist architecture, let's say, than the history that is usually taught in architecture schools or universities, which is more about the European or American masters. This is an example that's much more vernacular, or that sees also the seeping into a kind of everyday architectural style of modernism. Here, a very large, very beautiful banner that summarizes the project with all the models. And then an important part, which is maybe difficult to see on video, but a film by Inge Godelaine documenting the large structure, Casa, that was built in Sao Paulo, realized in a 65% size of Villa Wintermans. And the film documents the return of Inge to this site 15 years, I think, after the project happened. And there's also one part that relates directly, but in a more documentary sense, to the Sao Paulo project, which is this series of 11 frames, 5 of them hanging here and 6 in other parts of the space, that assemble material that relates to the Sao Paulo project, which was initially produced for the Sao Paulo Biennial, I should maybe say. So this is an issue of Kempen's Informatieblatt. laid out page by page with two important texts, one called Récit or Story, Verhaal, in which Jef Geys speaks about his relationship or his understanding of architecture, and then a second text that is much more about the star of David, the colored star that is part of all the structures that was added, and that connected to the football and football World Cup and the countries participating in the World Cup. The other frames, and they are great because they collect a lot of material, not only to the Sao Paulo project, but in general about works by the artist that can be said relate to architecture. Here we have again Villa Wintermans, then the museum in Antwerp. Here a printout from a project that we show actually in another space, Woodward Avenue, a project that the artist realized in Detroit, Quadra Medicinale here, a map. And here the third frame with more material, also again from the show at the Royal Museum in Antwerp that Jef Geys had there. A picture by Ladowski, an architect that Jef Geys mentioned, and that was very important to him. And together in the release with this project, we also showing a cluster of documents and works relating to bar 900. We have a very beautiful vitrine of the bar 900 cider. I'm actually still wondering if it's really a full bottle and if it's really cider that's in. But yeah, some of the bars, Negresco bar, nice collage, and here an advertising of Negresco bar announcing activities including an exhibition with James Lee Byers, Raimunda, Jean van der Plas, Bernd Lohaus and others. And not to forget Chalet, a photo series documenting the house that Jef built himself with his own hands as an example of architecture really realized with one's own hands in a very non-industrial way or anti-industrial way, somehow changing between a house or being ambivalent between a house and an artwork, because it was signed here also. So from here we can go to the third space, which is focusing on education in a more direct sense in Jef Geys' work. We have a beautiful installation of the Gefühlsbildos, here with two of the boxes unpacked, not for use. Actually, with applied Chanel number 5 to add a scent also to the way in which these different elements speak to the senses through tactility and also through different colors and shapes. And yeah, this was another plum. And then some other works in the same space. A series of model paintings using for each of the 10 works a different frame. This one obviously being the most extravagant frame. This leather frame is also quite exceptional. Presentation of the coloring book for adults, one series of more recent hand-drawn copies, and here in between we have one of the original books from the first edition. And also a film that was made to document the original tableaus. I think it's the garden in Bali, and yeah, the film was made in 1973, so a bit later than the coloring book itself. Part of the artist's archive, and the drawing that's on view is a summary of the puppets with notes on the provenance, where the puppets went, who bought them, or which gallery received them. And two further beautiful drawings about that collect some of the motifs, puppets, but also a fruit, a house, the grapes. Yeah, and not to forget, very important, the women questions, which have a first appearance in English in the entrance room, and from there lead to this room with a Norwegian version on tablecloth, and a German version and an Arabic version on paper. It's interesting, Norwegian is obviously the language that is mostly spoken in Bergen, and it was for us a very interesting find to see that this work actually exists in Norwegian, which is not such a common language, and my Norwegian is unfortunately very basic, so I can't really check if everything's written correctly, but it's really, it seems to be all very good Norwegian actually. The fifth space, it's the project Woodward Avenue, and the project is made with friends and experts who know a lot about plants, and plants that grow specifically in sites or locations that are unattended, or shows the street corners and samples of the plants together with their possible medical use. Yeah, this one here is, can be used to treat fever, stomach cramps, and nausea, which is of course interesting information for somebody who uses the street and might not have the money to afford medical treatment in a harsh social climate such as in the US. And it's also an interesting that the project is titled after Woodward Avenue, a long street passing through all of Detroit. I think it's the longest street in Detroit, and passing through a lot of different neighborhoods, wealthier ones, but also much poorer ones. And the project is shown together with two films made in Bolivia that speak about the medical use of plants and the knowledge, the indigenous knowledge on plants, where much more kind of found plants are still used. Good. Yeah, that was it. I hope this gave a good, fair overview about the exhibition. There's a lot more detail to discover. It's important to say that the exhibition was organized together with my colleague Steiner Seckingstad from Bergen Kunsthal, and the whole team of the Kunsthal, of course, our technicians. And we had amazing help by Sophie de Deren, who worked with us in the research and on a lot of the organizational details in preparation of the exhibition from Belgium, Antwerp, Walen, etc. So, nice speaking to all of you, and wishing you a good day.